Don't Breathe is a 2016 horror thriller film directed by Fede Alvarez. Don't Breathe stars Jane Levy, Dylan Minnette, and Stephen Lang as the blind man. The film follows Rocky, Money, and Alex, three teenage kids who make a living out of robbing houses. Wanting to get a new start in life, they decide to rob a blind man who is suspected of keeping a safe filled with money inside his house. When the blind man is aware that his house is being intruded, the three kids soon realize that the man is actually a serial killer, meaning just because he's blind doesn't mean he can't use his other senses to track each intruder down one by one, ensuing a thrilling game of cat and mouse. When I found out that the director of the new Evil Dead reboot had made a new movie starring the protagonist from the Evil Dead reboot, I was excited. For a while, Evil Dead and the 2012 Project X movie were tied as being my favorite movies of all time. Evil Dead did a fantastic job with the makeup and special effects and very little use of CGI in homage of the original's shoestring budget of practical effects. The reason why I love that movie so much was how realistic that movie was. Taking a look at Hollywood's other movies, specifically Sharknado and Ouija, they're actually releasing a sequel to that garbage Ouija movie, aren't they? By now, Sharknado is just tongue-in-cheek. Anyways, Alvarez actually not only made everything make sense, but kept respect to a horror movie classic, even as a first-time full-length feature director. I was pretty excited to see more of his future work. Then I heard about this movie, and I was stoked. I've seen Jane Levy in a few other things, such as bits and pieces of that show Suburgatory and Fun Size, not only until after seeing Evil Dead knowing it was her. Minette I can only remember seeing in Alexander and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day and Goosebumps, but that's about it. So with a familiar cast, I walked into this movie with high expectations and an open mind, because I'm not that type of person that takes it very seriously when it comes to critiquing a movie. Not to call out on or say that there's anything wrong with anyone that does do that, but I'm just not that kind of person who watches a movie like that, on like Chris Stuckman or pretty much it on YouTube. I just like to sit back, relax, eat my smuggled in Swedish fish or Sour Patch Kids, and enjoy the movie. I like to keep an open mind on some things. Interesting event that happened. I was wearing a tank top shirt when I went to go see it, so while the movie was starting I realized with an air-conditioned movie theater that it was a bad day to wear a wife beater. But then I figured the chilliness of the theater went along pretty well with the effect of the movie, so it didn't really bother me that much. But all tangents aside, let's get into the movie. Just as a heads up, I will be getting into some spoilers of the movie halfway through the video, so I'll keep you alert when that time comes so you can pause the video and go watch the movie, then you can come back and finish the video to hear what I have to say, but I'll get into that in a little bit. I really enjoyed this film, I have to say. This is one of the scariest movies I have seen of this decade. After watching this flick, I am thrilled to see what Alvarez has for us next. This movie was horrifying. My heart was beating throughout this movie. Fede really knows what he's doing with this movie. He's not messing around. He's taking what's scary and then adding some to it. There are scenes where the cameraman continuously just keeps shooting without a cut as these kids are walking through his home, adding to that suspense. The scenes where they were in his house being as quiet as a mouse and the whole room was just screeching with silence, I was afraid as to where and when that blind man would jump out. It utilizes the suspense factor very well in this movie, which is exactly what you need to make a movie like this. I remember having something in my throat during the middle of the movie, and I didn't want to clear it, afraid that the blind man would hear me. Also, when the few parts when the kids are approaching close to where the blind man might be, the movie amplifies the audio to give the effect that even something as lighter than a feather can be lethal. And when it doesn't do that, it makes it even more dreadful. I'll explain more of that in the spoiler section. And I can't tell you how many times my arms went up in shock to this movie. That oh shit moment when you're walking to a door and forced to stop dead in your tracks when it opens up to this big, muscular old timer that threatens your health. It rarely uses loud noises to accompany the jump scare, and when it does, it serves a purpose to the film, except for maybe one scene near the beginning involving a dog. For example, when all of a sudden the blind man just appears out of the blue, there's a soft tinkle of wind chimes and that's it. No screaming of banshees, no pounding on the drums, none of that shit. Just a nothing to it. I know how much it pisses people off when horror movies do that, and I was pretty happy that that wasn't in there. The score also added to the movie. The editing, the effects, the times when it used the dolly zoom, everything. This movie did a very good job with what I expected it to be, and if you haven't seen it, what the fuck is wrong with you? See it! Unless if you're a pussy when it comes to horror films. So we're at that point of the video where we will be discussing spoilers, so please don't whine in the comments that I didn't give you a heads up on this because I am giving you a spoiler alert warning right now. So if you haven't seen Don't Breathe, pause the video and go see it, buy it, rent it, whatever you can to watch it at whatever time you're viewing this video, then come back and continue to hear what I have to say about it, but chances are if you're still watching this video, that means you've already seen it, so let's get into some spoilers. To start things off, I really want to talk about the suspense played throughout this movie. How I was saying earlier that the movie amplifies the breaths taken by the characters was done well. One scene that utilized this technique is when the blind man murders Money, and you can hear Rocky quietly breathe to herself. The breath doesn't sound so quiet to us. This means that the filmmakers are making us feel that anxiety and fear that Rocky is feeling within every breath she takes, where she dreads which breath will be the breath that this old blind fuck will hear that will cost her her life. Also, there's a scene where Alex is hiding from the blind man, and then in the back of our minds, we can hear him out of breath trying to gather oxygen like it's no big deal. Well, all of a sudden, the blind man looks up, implying he heard Alex wheezing, and that sound for gasping for air wasn't amplified, making this experience more petrifying. This could most likely represent how just when you thought you were safe, just when you thought you were out of sight of the blind man's keen senses, you're still not entirely safe. You're still fucked. That's filmmaking. That's getting the audience to think once you've assured yourself by quadruple checking everything, there's still something you've missed. The filmmakers did a very good job with the sound effects of this movie. They really gave the audience that sense of chill the characters were going through. I know I might be looking at this just a little bit too specifically, but I just really appreciated it. If you don't know by now, I am a big film buff. I love to watch movies and learn about the different types of techniques directors use. I also plan on being a film director later in life, but that's another topic for another video. Another benefit from this movie is the filming of the long take shots. When Rocky, Money, and Alex are roaming around this blind dude's house, continuous, uninterrupted, non-stop shots are taken to give the suspense of where this blind dude, or anything else that could be a threat to them in this house, might show up. Similar in The Shining, where Danny is riding along around the Overlook Hotel on his trike in a long, continuous take for several seconds with the fear of what might lurk around the corner whenever he turns. Perhaps not the best analogy for this case, but I definitely thought of that scene when I saw this. Also, the climax, no pun intended, when you find the blind man has a dirty little secret hiding in his basement and what he has planned on doing to Rocky as a result for invading his home. That was horrifying as fuck. I'm sure that's something that'll freak more girls out than guys. Feedy, Feedy probably has the tendency to scare female audiences in his movies using elements of rape and that kind of shit. But that fucking scene after when Rocky jams what's filled in the turkey baster into the guy's fucking mouth, holy shit, that was funny. That little comic relief in the film where she's like, how does it taste? Should have jammed that thing up his nose. Make him look like an angry dragon. Don't Urban Dictionary that. Last but not least, the ending. I feel like everything about this movie was great, except for maybe the last 3 minutes I could have gone without. I can see where it was going, trying to send off the message that the blind man will make full recovery, and she's afraid he might come back for her, if that's what the ending was trying to tell us. I could be wrong, but that's how I took it. But right when the cop car shows up and the screen cuts to black, that would have been the perfect ending right there. Watch Cop Car with Kevin Bacon or The Call with Halle Berry to see what I mean by an ambiguous ending. I remember hearing there was a brief scene that followed after the final scene of Evil Dead before the credits rolled that Alvarez took out, and upon seeing the deleted ending, I can see why he did. I think all it was just like a couple of hillbillies picked up Mia, and that was it. That seems pretty similar to this, except this time he kept the ending for some reason. What did the ending of Don't Breathe exactly represent, if not the way I had interpreted it to be? The film focusing on this one house in this one area in this one town makes the ambiguity of the setting more interesting, almost as if the movie could have happened anywhere. Another great benefit of this flick. Overall, Don't Breathe is a great late night horror flick to watch with your friends. This is horror movies done right. This is one of the three best horror movies I've seen of this decade, along with Don't Blink and It Follows. What are your thoughts on Don't Breathe? Comment below telling me what your thoughts are of this movie. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Could it have been better? Do you want to see more from Alvarez? And as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more movies reviews like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, peace off, and don't put the soda in the popcorn the next time you go see Don't Breathe.